Good morning, welcome everybody. I see probably we still have a few participants coming in. I hope you already had a good start of the morning at the Blockchain Policy Forum. I am Lucia Cusmano. I am the Deputy Head of the SME Entrepreneurship and Tourism Division at the OECD, at the Center for Entrepreneurship, SMEs, Regions and Cities. So I sort of repeated twice the terms entrepreneurship because this is in fact a key area of work of the OECD. We serve in this sense the OECD Committee on SMEs and Entrepreneurship, which is the official body of the OECD gathering the policy representatives across countries that are in charge of policies for SMEs and entrepreneurship. And I welcome very much the opportunity today, in fact, to be here with you at this session organized with the Blockchain and Distributed Ledger Observatory of the Politecnico University of Milan, with whom we have established already since a few years an excellent and fruitful partnership to investigate issues related with blockchain, their applications, the benefits and use that smaller businesses and entrepreneurs can get out of this profound transformation. So the session today will focus, in fact, on the startups and innovative trends and the path toward innovation in blockchain and web3. So we are very much at the core of the very profound changes that are affecting industries and are also creating new opportunities, but also possibly some challenges to entrepreneurs as well as small and medium-sized businesses. As I mentioned, this is an area where we have already worked, including in partnership with our colleagues from the Politecnico of Milan. And we have addressed in the past few years the emergence of blockchain ecosystems and how these blockchain ecosystems are favoring some type of innovative entrepreneurship, but also how blockchain application can provide specific advantages for small and medium-sized enterprises, such as by helping to address some of the structural vulnerabilities in terms, for example, of information asymmetries along supply chains, including at the global level. They can help improve traceability along supply chains and so have a very important role in addressing vulnerabilities that for many SMEs mean difficulties to innovate and compete. We did, as I mentioned, a work on blockchain for SMEs and entrepreneurs in Italy as well as in Israel. So we conducted those case studies. I have to say it already looks like an year ago because the studies that we conducted were in fact released in 2019. And 3 years ago, probably it was a year ago, when it comes to applications to the world of blockchain. But probably some of the issues that those studies had identified in terms of policy priorities are still valid ones. For instance, the fact that there is a need to increase among entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs, and as well, of course, small businesses, the digital skills, awareness about what can be beneficial applications of these technologies, but also the risk that needs to be managed. The importance for policy to coordinate, to ensure effective governance mechanism across the various entities, regulators, bodies that can intervene on the matter from different perspectives. So the importance of clear regulations, rules of the game for startups in this space has to be able to innovate and thrive. So we know already that this issue of regulatory frameworks and the difficult balancing act between enabling innovation on the one hand and on the other ensuring that the best practice in KYC, ML are in fact satisfied. We know it's not easy, and this is one of the themes that is addressed in this blockchain policy forum. But it's a balancing act that can have very important rewards, including for small business and entrepreneurs. And this is all the more relevant as our economies, and including entrepreneurs, are facing a sort of perfect storm. We are going from one crisis to the next. There is clearly a strong need for entrepreneurs to be equipped, to be able to face and adapt to a very uncertain economic environment. And digital tools, including application of blockchain technologies, DLT, they can play an important role to weather the storm, so to help many businesses and entrepreneurs to overcome the shocks, but also over the longer term to strengthen resilience. Real-time data, for instance, is a very important element, leverage to address bottlenecks in supply chains that are creating these days very important constraints for many industries and businesses. But applications, as we know, are very varied. So applications, for example, that concern a credit risk assessment can become increasingly important as entrepreneurs are likely to face greater constraints for accessing credit and other types of financial resources. So looking ahead, we really look forward to the discussion today and to also reflect on our side on how we can translate this discussion and its insights in useful conclusions, or at least reflections for the Committee on SMEs and Entrepreneurship that is also looking at how DLTs and blockchain can have an impact on traditional industries and enterprises that are increasingly moving towards a new business model. Just to mention one, we are just right now working, for example, on the transformation of the retail sector. So the emergence of hybrid model and how this type of application can play a role to facilitate this transition for a large number of enterprises. In terms of the policy priorities, let me highlight just another two that we see as highly relevant and hopefully also in the discussion today we can have some insight about those. One is how the accelerated digitalization can also turn into a lever for the transition to sustainability. So what in Europe we have come to call as the twin transition. So to what degree the diffusion of these applications, their take-up across the SME population, they can also help the environmental transition. Carbon footprint testing technologies, the tracing of sustainable materials in supply chains. So applications that can have a very clear advantage in terms of sustainability, but that may face, on the other hand, the challenge of getting, in fact, a large share of the population closer to these type of applications. And that's my last point, this also calls into question the relevance of skills. We know that lack of digital skills, lack of awareness are in general, even beyond blockchain, DLTs, they are a major barrier for the digital transition of many small businesses and entrepreneurs. So this is also probably an area where we can learn from what's going on in the world of startups to draw also lessons that may be of broader relevance to ensure the digital transition of small businesses. But I just wanted to give you a bit of a sense of why we see this theme as particularly relevant and important, and look forward for a very insightful discussion. And I leave then the floor to Valeria Portale from the Blockchain and Distributed Ledger Observatory of the Politecnico of Milan to guide us through the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the collaboration with OECD. I say thank you to Lucia, to Marco, and Oliver. Thank you very much. And I think that today is a very important day that where we can go in the startup ecosystem to understand how the startup can drive the revolution of blockchain and distributed ledger technology. I think that, yes, I totally agree with Lucia Cusmano said, because, yes, the innovation of this technology is really important, and the startups represent the innovators. So they must collaborate with companies, with government, with policymakers, and so on. So we need a lot of collaboration. Remember, blockchain technology is a collaborative technology. You cannot create a project with a standalone company. You need an ecosystem. So this technology is very important. So I try to show you some important elements of our research and our project that we have done. First of all, I would like to give you an overview of what's happening in the world. We are Italian Observatory about blockchain, but we analyze the worldwide development of blockchain projects. First of all, we analyze that we have a constantly increasing of the project developed by companies about blockchain. We analyze 700 projects worldwide from 2016 to 2021. So we analyzed 60 years, and we analyzed a lot of projects. Even if we know that a new technology, usually we have more and more projects than only 700. Why so few projects? Because blockchain, remember, is a collaborative technology. The collaboration is not easy. It takes time to create a new ecosystem, new project, and so on. For this reason, we think that it's important some events, some collaboration, some networking moment where companies and other players can discuss about that and can create new project overall. So, yes, we analyzed that blockchain is not only a technology for startups, it's a technology also for traditional companies. We have seen a lot of traditional players that they are starting to understand how blockchain can create more efficiency for their process. Moreover, the startups, they create new business model, new markets. So it's really important that traditional companies and startups, they start to work all together. Why? Because the traditional players, they know very well the traditional process of their market. Instead, the startups can innovate for a new business model. So for this reason, yes, we decided to have a study analysis about worldwide startups. Yes, and remember, but to develop this ecosystem, we need to have a discussion between companies, between regulators, Lucia said before, institutions, startups, developers, users, university. Why university? To spread the knowledge, to create skills, and create new opportunity for everyone in the ecosystem. So I identify 6 working steps, and I hope that you can share my idea. First of all, I need a clear regulatory framework. We know that a lot of policymakers are working on that, but it's not so clear how will happen in the future from the worldwide approach. So we have seen an Italian approach, French approach, and so on. We need only one standard, one kind of. We know that we will not have one regulation, but we have a kind of cooperation between all the players, because this technology is not a country technology, it's a worldwide technology. So I think that the regulator is really important also to preserve the users and preserve the competition. It's really important. Secondly, we need the courage to invest, to develop startups, new players that they want to go in this market. Why? Because they are more innovative. Maybe they can help traditional players to understand how the world can change with this technology. Thirdly, we need widespread knowledge about the technology. Remember, this technology is quite complex. Sometimes it's not easy to understand, so it's important that we understand what is behind the technology and how we can create benefits from that. Fourthly, we need education to create skills and create new project development. Fifth, we need capitals and investments. Why? Because it's important not only to study the technology, but also invest in this technology. Maybe with new projects, new startups, and so on. Sixth, we think that we need networking and collaboration. So we think that it's really important to work all together, not only country by country, but in a worldwide approach. So I think that can help us to understand what we'll present today, because yes, we have a very rich agenda. So I say some words about the Observatory, of Italian Observatory, so you can understand who we are and why we are speaking about that. The Observatory is an academic research center in the Politecnico of Milan. It's one of the most important university in Italy. And what we do research, academic research, but not only research. We do networking. So here you can see a lot of Italian companies that are working with us, and we do education about blockchain, and we do communication, because we think that it's important to understand, to spread worldwide the communication. And yes, we do research. Remember, research is a very important point, because we need to understand the technology. After that, we can work to create a new project, and that's it. So the research is really important. We have three kinds of research: a business research, technology research, and a legal research. There is also Francesco Bruschi with me. This is another director of the Observatory. He is the owner of the technology research. Instead, I am more business research. So we think that these two approaches are very important for to understand the opportunity of this technology. So yes, you can see a very huge team, not only people, researchers that are working on blockchain Observatory, but also a lot of players that are involved every month, every day with us, working on the blockchain ecosystem. So yes, we have done a lot of workshop, networking, and so on. But we think that it's important to create a connection not only in Italy, but also worldwide. For this reason, we are happy to be here to create a kind of networking, a worldwide networking all together to discuss and create a new opportunity. Yes, we have also other elements from Observatory, like a kind of laboratory for applied research center that developed blockchain solution. Moreover, we work with master and other kind of educational courses, and yes, we have also technical courses for developer that they want to start with this kind of blockchain. So I also invite you, everybody, at our final conference that will be in Italy in the 20th of January 2023. So we will present the final research of our observatory. But today we have a very rich agenda, and after my presentation, I will give the stage to Giacomo Vella, a researcher of Observatory, that present the results of our research about startups. We analyzed a lot of startups, and we would like to give you an overview about trends defined by startups. Moreover, we have, I say thank you to our guests that are some players that are, some of them are startups or they were startups in the past. So we have, I don't know the name if it's perfect, but it's Jeremy Bowfields of Unstoppable Domains. Hello. Hello. After that, we have Victor Busson, the Taurus Group. He will arrive. After that, we have also the Binance. They are a bit late, but they will arrive. And so we will have also a discussion about what we have. We will present after that. So remember, if you want to take question, you can stand up your hands, and after that we will give you the microphone and so on. So we can start. Giacomo, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Valeria. So. Okay, so now we are going. I'm going to present our research about blockchain startups, and we will cover a lot of different trends in this ecosystem. And we will have also another session in the afternoon where we will go more in deep about the result of our research, because as you know, I mean, we don't have hours and hours to discuss about this topic. I will just give some key points about this research. So let's start from some key trends, macro trends that we all see in the blockchain ecosystem. These are key trends that probably all of you already know or already heard about. Web3 revolution, upgrades like the recent merge in Ethereum, so layer 1, layer 2 blockchain platforms. We saw NFTs and tokens becoming a tech instrument more and more adopted by companies and startups. We see increased adoption of crypto assets, and also we see regulation that is starting to impact some crypto business, some startup and so on. But these are trends that we all know, we can agree or disagree that are the key trends in the blockchain ecosystem. But we want to understand how this trend, that can be technological, business, regulatory, are adopted or are impacting the business ecosystem, who is creating blockchain business solution. So our question is, okay, these trends are pretty clear, but we want to understand how they are translated in business solution inside the blockchain ecosystem. Valeria already introduced the fact that we also study what traditional, let's say, companies and institutions are doing with this technology. We see many projects, we understand how they are working with this technology, and we understood that they are covering three different, let's say, approaches with this technology. Who is more toward the Internet of Value, so using cryptocurrencies, stablecoins, CBDCs, so project more in this ecosystem. we saw companies that are more focused on the so-called blockchain for business, so trying to reproduce their processes using blockchain technology, but without innovating too much with these technologies, just try to achieve more efficiency. And then we saw another part that is the decentralized web, web3, so all the projects that are developed on blockchain public platform with maybe NFTs, decentralized applications. So we tried to, let's say, categorize this kind of application. And this is what we saw last year and this year with our research on what companies, traditional companies, are doing. But this, we think that is not enough. We think that there is another important player, like we saw before in the representation of the ecosystem, that are startups. And we want to understand how they are creating new business in this sector. So how also startups, not traditional companies, are using blockchain, not only from a technical perspective. I mean, in blockchain there is a lot of technical discussion, but we want to understand from a business side, like new business model, how they are innovating business with this technology. Why we think that startups are an important player to consider, and why we are focusing our research, one of our branch of research, on this actor. For sure, they are on the frontier of business innovation, not only tech innovation. They can give a complete overview of the whole blockchain ecosystem, not only who is developing application like the companies, but also who is developing the infrastructure behind business applications, so new platform, development tools. Then we will see what we saw in this ecosystem. We can see that fundings received by startups are a proxy of the interest of the market on the innovation brought by startups. And of course, we know that who is receiving more money will likely grow faster, and we want to understand if these funds are already impacting probably the business model, or how are these startups acting in the blockchain market. So what we did is we did an international research about on more than 1,400 startups worldwide. We have some selection criteria to understand what is a startup and what is not a startup. Of course, this, you cannot agree on this selection, but it's important to understand our sample. So we select startups that are born after 5 years ago, and that received at least a funding round or some funding that can be also through ICO, that we know that is still present in some way in the blockchain ecosystem in the last 2 years. And then we analyze only the startup that received at least $1 million, just to have some kind of criteria to analyze the startups. And we saw that, again, we have more than 1,400 startups in our sample for a total of 36 billion of funding. And then we analyze this startup from their white paper, their websites, from other secondary sources to understand if they are startups, if they're out there using blockchain, and to categorize them to understand the market in its whole. We know just also data from other resources. We know that 2021 was a huge year for a startup in the blockchain space. We had a lot of money invested in startup, in blockchain startups from VCs, and so it was a really exceptional year. And we saw also, and then we will see who is receiving more money about this startup. Just to give you another overview, we will see a lot of number, a lot of information. Of course, we will share the presentation with every participant, so it's sometimes it can be very difficult to follow all the slides, but we will try to focus on the key messages. So just to divide from what are the funding received from VCs and what is still happening with ICOs. And of course, we know that, if we study blockchain startup, blockchain innovation, we know that the fundings are not only coming from VCs or ICOs, but we see some tokenomics developed by the most innovative solution like decentralized application. We don't cover this kind of money raised in this way because it's very difficult to evaluate the amount of money received, but we know that there are other ways in which startups are receiving money or funding themselves in this ecosystem. Just to give you another overview of how is composed the sample, we see almost half of the sample, half of the startup that receive between $1 and $5 million. But when we look at the distribution of the funding, we see that more than 70% of the total funding amount is received by startups that received more than $50 million in funding. So we have a lot of concentration in the funding received by blockchain startup. We analyze also how they are geographically distributed. From this chart, you can see that North America is the leading one in terms of number of startups and money received, and also we have the second position, Europe, that is still, let's say, a very active ecosystem. But I have to say that from the sources that we use, we tend to over-consider North America and we don't have much information about the Asian market that we know is very active with blockchain. So from the source that we consider that is US-based, it's very difficult to understand what is happening in Asia. So we will have probably also to consider Asia numbers a bit higher. Okay, so analyzing 1,400 startups is a huge work. And we try to give some categorization to understand the market because, of course, we cannot look at the single startup. We cannot only look at the industry like finance, supply chain. It's very difficult. So we decided more to understand what they are doing with a different approach. So first, we divided by application. Who is working more on the development, helping the development of application, and on infrastructure. So we know that it's very differentiated who is working on blockchain platform and who is working on, let's say, on top of blockchain platform with application. And in application, we see the differentiation that we saw before also for companies. So we have the Internet of Value that is represented by who is working, let's say, startups that are doing the work of crypto exchange, that are providing custody, payment with crypto, so that are providing this kind of business solution. We have the blockchain for business, so the startup that are instead more working in a B2B way with companies that are maybe replicating traditional business processes, and we see also this in startup. Then we have the decentralized web represented by NFTs, gaming, and metaverse, so this kind of solution, and DeFi application that are the big, let's say, decentralized application field that we see. And then we will see more in depth some of these clusters. Of course, we are not saying this is more important, this is less important. We just do. We have a short time, so just to give you some key trends about this cluster. Then we will cover more information in the afternoon session. So just to give you also an idea of the distribution between this cluster, we see the first, the most populated cluster that are for sure NFTs, gaming and metaverse, DeFi application, exchange and custody, blockchain solution. We see that exchange and custody is receiving 1/3 of the funding. So we already see who is behind the big money received in 2021, in the last years. Then we will see more in depth why. And if we divide this, by application development infrastructure, we see that the majority of startups and funding is focused on the application. But again, the funding received by startups is not just a way to say these are the most interesting, because we can say that infrastructure can be important as well, but maybe we have less startups that are working on it. So we will see that funding by itself, this chart by itself, is not something that we have just to consider just as is. We see the top 10 of a startup. We see that a lot of them are from the US, and we see that a lot of them are in the exchange and custody cluster. Then we are going into deep in some of this cluster, just to give you some information and some key trends. I know that I'm running, but just to give you some more information. So we see that crypto, exchange, and custody is the cluster that received more money, that have the highest average funding in our analysis. And we see some main trends. We will talk about main trends from some of these cluster. We can say that this cluster is already quite developed. Is as a kind of a business solution. The management of cryptocurrencies, the custody of cryptocurrencies, is something that we are seeing from many years, let's say, in this ecosystem. So they already have a quite developed business model based on transaction fees. And now we see them that they are most focused on acquiring new customer. We saw a lot of marketing campaigns who follow some sport, football or other sports. Probably saw a lot of advertisement by crypto exchanges. They are investing a lot in acquiring new markets and for mass adoption. They are already starting to, let's say, steal funds from traditional banks, because, of course, money that goes in crypto exchanges is coming from money that is usually managed by traditional banks. And this is a trend that we already see in the market, but we don't see a lot of, right now, competition between these two actors, but instead more and more partnerships that are happening between who is already dealing with this kind of services, so managing crypto asset, and maybe who wants to also involve his old customer in this new business, so with partnership with probably traditional banks and centralized exchanges. And we talked before about regulation. Probably in this field, we already see some impact of the regulation. Some exchanges are already working with the regulators, are already following the rules. Some other are less, let's say, focused on following the rules and are doing another strategy. You can see the top 5 by funding, and you will say, okay, but we miss some big names. We will see in the afternoon, but some big names in the cryptocurrency market, crypto exchange, are not a startup anymore. And this is another point that we have to consider when we see how mature maybe is this cluster already. And we will see some more number in the afternoon. Then another interesting cluster, of course, we all have heard about NFTs in the last year, in the last month. We see that here in this cluster, there are businesses that are trying to use NFTs, tokens related to collectibles, but also developing gaming decentralized application to use this new instrument to also develop something that is not only financial, because a lot of blockchain applications are more financially focused, but these are more following another path. And what we saw is, of course, you can see that there are more than 300 startups in this, and this is the most populated cluster in our analysis. And of course, it was a huge growth in the last year of about the number of startups offering NFT solution, entertainment solution with this instrument. And what is interesting here is that they, if probably crypto ecosystem is already targeting who is interested in crypto and cryptocurrencies, NFTs, gaming are targeting also who is probably not interested in finance, not interested in cryptocurrencies at first, but they are targeting also who is maybe just interested in crypto art or a collection of digital assets, so is covering another target. And what we saw is that it's not just a consumer-oriented cluster, because there are a lot of brands, a lot of traditional companies that are starting to collaborating with these startups for marketing of their traditional brands. We saw the last example like Starbucks, but we have a lot of other companies that are working, trying to understand how they can use NFTs to target customers that are still interested in blockchain, but maybe not the one just interested in crypto. So they are trying to also target new customer with NFTs and this kind of instrument. But we know also that some initiatives that we saw in the past were just, let's say, they are called cash grab in this ecosystem, because they were just trying to sell NFTs to generate value very quickly, but without a real business model behind, without a real customer experience behind. And probably in this cluster we still have to see real sustainable business model for marketing campaigns and for this kind of solution. Then we see DeFi application. That is another super interesting cluster of innovation in the startup ecosystem. We see startups that are developing decentralized application offering financial services that sometimes are not purely financially oriented, but still in the finance sector, let's say. They are and this is another interesting point of difference between what are doing companies that are more probably focused on the B2B and what are doing startups, especially in the NFTs and DeFi. Because they are focusing on the final customer, they are B2C. And they are not just targeting the final customer with the solution, but they are involving the final customer, the user, inside their business model. So we see a lot of platform-based business model in the DeFi ecosystem. So customers are not only the target, but also are a key partner for this DeFi application. And we see a lot of DeFi applications that are not startups, let's say traditional startups, but are just some developers, some foundation that are developing new protocols. So some of them are not included in this cluster because, of course, they are difficult to analyze. But we see some trend. For sure, the decentralization of governance, this decentralization of their business model, so the involvement of the users, the participatory governance structure that we will see in some speech of our guests later, also in the afternoon. And we see the trend of composability, money Lego, permissionless innovation. So the fact that they are innovating and also creating new applications in a very innovative way, also by replicating applications that are already existing, is very easy to develop new solutions on a blockchain platform. And they are really doing it. And also we see a high number of startups in this cluster also for this reason. And we see another trend that we saw before, so the collaboration between traditional finance, centralized finance, is called CDFI, so centralized decentralized finance. So the collaboration between traditional actor, centralized actor, and startups that are starting to build services also for the traditional banks, traditional financial players. We see other cluster more in the development. We see an important part of startups that are in the development tools cluster. So who is trying to develop tools, of course, to help build application. because a lot of startups are just creating some tools that then other startups can use to easily build on blockchain. And this is a huge trend because a lot of the startups building NFTs, DeFi, are eased in their work because they can use tools that are developed by someone else, that there is a lot of collaboration between different startups and different services offered by different startups. There are a lot of on-chain services that can be used to create better services, and also we see a trend in also related to the increased regulation. In this cluster, we see a lot of interesting analysis tool. So not only development, but also on-chain analysis that can help the regulator or also financial institutions that have to do KYC, AML, to understand what is happening on chain. And this is interesting also to have this kind of services. Then platform and protocols, we will cover also this topic more in depth in the afternoon. But just to see that we have less startup in this cluster, we are not saying that they are not important, because of course all the others are building on what is provided by this kind of startup. But inside here we can see less startup creating completely new platforms, but instead a new trend of startups that are developing scalability solution, layer 2 solution, to improve the efficiency, the scalability of already existing platform, also to offer the possibility to create better application on the startup that we saw in the other clusters. Too much info. I mean, there's a lot of info, and we have to cut a lot of information that we had from this research. So just to sum up some of the key trends that we saw in all the clusters, just to say, okay, what we have from this research. Crypto exchange and custody is the only cluster that we really see already close to some kind of maturity. We see from the regulatory perspective, we see from the business perspective, from fundings, so is the first one. We saw that a lot of startups born for user, let's say, focus services are already collaborating or starting to understand how to collaborate with traditional companies. We saw the increase, and we will see in the afternoon, but we saw the increase of the use, the adoption of public platforms. So a lot of startup is saying we don't need to develop new blockchain platform like it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. We can use already existing blockchain platform. We can develop application on them. It's a lot easier than developing a new application, a new blockchain platform, of course. There is a small number of actors that are building blockchain platform, and they are essential, but there are less, of course, the number is less, they are more important, but less platform. And regulation is still an element of uncertainty for all these clusters. So they are already ahead by building services, building applications, but of course regulation will impact differently NFTs from DeFi, from the regulation of blockchain platform. That is a really interesting topic, but we will see in the future how regulation will impact this kind of businesses.
Okay, thank you very much, Giacomo, and I hope that you understand the importance of this research. And yes, if you want to have more details, have you seen that we have a lot of details about that this afternoon? We will have another section that we will go deep in this data. If you want to participate, you can do. Yes, we are open. So if you want, we will be in the other room, CC7, and we start at 2 o'clock, and we have another part of that. Right now, I would like to listen not only the data in general about the startups. We would like to have an overview about some players that are working on this kind of blockchain and in particular in the web3 development. So I asked to Jeremy Bofield to have the stage. You have 10 minutes. I will be very
Perfect,
I
yeah.
will stop you when you finish, so you start.
I have a timer here, so I'm starting it. Boom. So thank you. Even if I only have 10 minutes, I'll take some time to thank you for the invitation. I think that this is really unique as a setup to have university as well as people making policies and the startups talking together. And so that's great. I'm just really proud to be here, and I'm proud that it happens in Paris. As a matter of fact, I am French. I actually studied right next door, so it's great to be on home ground. Something that are interesting about the reason why I work in Web3 is that I've been doing marketing and economics all my life. And by marketing, it's about understanding real users' problem and how we can solve them. And that's something that is really interesting. Like, what are the actual business applications? There are a lot of great visions. There are like fundings that are made on hopes. But what is actually useful today? And this is why I work at Unstoppable. So to kind of let you read this, because it's better than listening to me and my accent. Our mission is to create a user-owned digital identity platform for every person on the planet. So these are NFT domains. NFT domains are the infrastructure that allow people to own their reputational data. And we think that by giving people the ownership of that data, this drives equity, privacy, and empowerment for many. Concretely, NFT domains are new web extensions like, .com, .fr, .it, which we launch as smart contracts on public blockchains. And the domains are actually ERC 721, which are like your regular NFTs, which are minted on Ethereum blockchain and Polygon network. So why actually? A few numbers. 2.6 million domains have been. Is it working? Sorry. 2.6 million domains have been minted, and in 2021, during your research, we were still a startup. I think that I'm not sure if we still, if we still qualify, because we have been receiving quite some funding in 2022 after the kind of start of crypto winter, as we call it. So we feel that identity as a problem is here to stay, and this is why. There are like two big problems that we think we can solve. The first one is the fact that in Web2, people do not own data. Corporations do. And we are giving people ownership of their data. The second thing is the fact that on the internet, there are like bots, fake accounts, scammers, which are at the service of illegal cash grabs, more illegal than legal cash grabs. And this is actually, these bots have real life consequences. And so we think that having a system of verified reputation online solves this. So Web3 is actually blockchain first. And we've seen this yesterday. The idea is that not that Web3 is going to replace Web2. This is actually a gradient field in this arrow, like this. Things will coexist together, but by being blockchain first, this provides an environment that helps us solve the two problems that were on the previous slide. Web is, let's just define what web is. Like, it's just like all of the applications, interactions that we are having today as users, people online. And so we believe that being blockchain first, it allows self-custody, meaning, like, as I was saying, like owning your own digital identity yourself in your own blockchain wallet. Which gives your domain superpower. So I'm pretty sure that not many people here have blockchain domains or Web3 domains. So I'll just like go and explain the difference between your usual Web2 domain and your Web3 domain, and then I'll get into what Unstoppable domains, specific domains have as features. Web2 domains are for businesses. Even if they are people, like it's your brand, right? We believe that Web3 domains are for businesses and for people. Here we are more focusing on the value for SMEs potentially. But the truth is, the way that we see it is that your domain is as pervasive tomorrow as your email is today. That's kind of your way to interact with other actors on the blockchain. And this is the main difference. When it comes to utility in Web2, basically finding information, pushing your brand. I selected a brand that I like, but you can put any brand that you want here. Web3, you keep these two, domain utilities, but you also have your identity, proving who you are, and that you actually are who you say you are, keeping your data for yourself, and exchanging value. Here we put crypto because that's one of the most widespread use case today, but you can think of value as taking many forms. In Web 2, your domain has to be secured everywhere, right? And if you think of this, each time there is a new channel, you need to be the first one and secure your name there. 15 years ago, maybe you were on Facebook, or 10 years ago on Twitter, and then you kind of run after that. The idea is that in the blockchain, if you own your own identity, and it's your own kind of self-custody identity, you can take it with you everywhere you go, you keep it, and all future apps or decentralized apps that will exist can basically be used using your own personal identity. So I think I'm at 6 minutes, so that's doing good on time, I think. I just double-click on a few of the features, and the important thing about what we do is to try to kind of follow these three lenses, which is like actual utility today, not tomorrow. It's not a vision, it actually works today. There is some part of it that is actually interesting for future applications. Ownership, because that's kind of the key cornerstone of what we have to offer, and then access in many forms. Utility. So your identity should be kind of easy to read for humans. I'm not sure if some of you have wallets. I think that if you're here, it's very likely that you have tried to have a wallet. Wallets have like a lot of characters. They are not made for humans. They are made for ledgers. And this is not good, right? If you go on NewYorkTimes.com, it's actually a human-readable way for your browser to go to the server that is hosted by the New York Times or their vendors. That's what it means. So just simply being able to say, this is my address in a way that is easily shareable for everyone, has value for people today. The idea is that behind this address, you can also have all of your different wallets, and that I'm bofis.crypto. You can send money there. It will make the resolution towards the right wallets. I'm not asking you to send for actual money, but that's just an example. You can log in with your domain, which means that the authentication happens through your own domain on your own ground. And it's kind of, we feel, more in the trend of what users want versus going through the usual kind of big platforms that centralize that. As any domain, you can host content on it. So decentralized content, there are tons of ways, like one of the formats is IPFS, Interplanetary File System. This is already readable by Brave and Opera. If you have extensions, you can actually also access decentralized web on your normal browser. So you can go on bofis.nft, and I have a decentralized website, which has not much interesting things on that, but it works today. Last but not least, portable reputation. Your domain is your identity in the sense that it collects all of the tokens, all of the credentials, all of the kind of social digital proofs that you may have, and you take it with you. It doesn't necessarily exist today, but the idea is to say, if I'm a member of that fan club, maybe I have like discount on some other site. The idea is just to be able to be in control of what you have and just take it wherever you want, sharing it in the way that you want. Because that's also the important thing. It needs to be user-owned, secured, and portable. So these domains are minted on the blockchain. So once you mint them, you put them in your wallet, they are yours. And that way, no one can take them away from you. It's yours forever. You don't rent it. Actually, with unstoppable domains, you just buy it, mint it. We cover the gas fees for now, and that's yours, which is a very, very different value proposition from what domains are today, which are essentially rented. Last but not least, it goes with the login that we had before. When you log in, and that's a discussion I think that we had in a session yesterday, you decide who you share the proof that you are who you say you are with. And you may have different proofs. You know, it may be interesting for you to tell to that wine box service that you actually are more than 18 years old, but no one else needs to know. Ownership is an important one. And then last but not least, access. Domains may be expensive. Actually, sometimes, because we're a for-profit organization, we decided to not put everything on sale at once. So you cannot buy OECD.blockchain. You can buy, actually, if you are OECD. So we keep it protected, and we try to avoid this kind of, if you remember, domain squatting back in the day. Some domains are very expensive. If you want to buy business.blockchain, it may be like super expensive. But yeah, so it's cheap, chain agnostic. You don't need to have crypto to buy them. And last but not least, this is inclusive in the sense that we have partners that build with our domains the best services, but inclusive also in the way that we want to have people that are not necessarily crypto people from the US, but people from different walks of life, different genders, and we try to be an inclusive organization. I'm at 11 minutes, I think. Is it good?
Perfect for the time. And thank you very much. And Francesco, do you have a question?
Yes, I have some.
Yes.
I have some question. Well, some of our followers, the followers of the Observatory, are quite familiar with the Ethereum name system. We show some demo showing how it is possible to acquire a domain. How do you compare? How does your offer compare to ENS in terms of adoption, philosophy?
Adoption, it seems that we are ahead, but like, you know, this is very new. This is actually very, very new, and I think that adoption, we may be ahead. The point that is important, I think, is that the usage today is potentially 0% of the usage that it should be tomorrow. So when it comes to this offer, I think that both of us share this idea that, you know, a decentralized web where people are in control of their identity is better. They are factually just user benefits that do not exist in ENS that exist for us. You don't rent it. So they have another business model. Our business model is we sell it for a fee. That's forever. Their business model is this rental kind of usual domain system. And there are other, I think that's more like ethics, which they truly want to be decentralized, and therefore they do not want to do this example of OECD.blockchain that we decided not to sell, because if this is actually for true identity, then we need to avoid obvious name squatting, and we think that it's easier to kind of just...
How do you do that? How do you avoid squatting?
Well, this company is American, so like, but we just went through like what is trademarked, obviously, and let's just like keep that. Obviously, it's difficult for name. There are quite a few Bofis, so I'm the lucky one that has Bofis.nft, but so no one can take it away from me, and I just happen to be first. But like we want to avoid as much as we can that people sit on Chanel.nft and try to sell it, like. Because that's also sometimes what's behind the adoption of these NFT things. Like, is it actually a cash grab? And if it's about identity, I feel, that's more my personal view, that you cannot play the cash grab game and then say that, no, it's actually for identity. If it's for identity, then you want to make the environment as positive as you can. There will be people that try to make money out of it, but I think that just, yeah, that we try to add enough friction so that the people who adopt it are happy about it, right? So yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Maybe if you have a question, we have the last part of the event, and we have the question and answering time. So. Thank you very much, Jeremy. It was really interesting. And after that, yes, Giacomo explained us the importance of the crypto custody and exchange wallet. Moreover, he said that there are some partnership between players, startups, and institutions. So we invited Victor Busson, that from Taurus Group. And I ask you to explain. You have 10 minutes, okay? You have the slide, okay? You have 10 minutes. I will stop at the 10 minutes, so the stage is yours.
So, Oops. Okay. So hello everyone. My name is Victor Busson. As my colleague, I'm French, graduated from HEC Paris, background in marketing, so I spent more than 8 years at Procter & Gamble, and then joined Taurus full-time like 18 months ago. I'm working with Taurus basically since inception, a bit on the side of my previous job, because I'm kind of very, very passionate about blockchain technology. Okay. Plan of today will be that there will be 2 big parts. First part will be really focusing on presenting Taurus, few slides on it, and then I will really show the different use cases, okay, that you can do by using digital assets from financial institutions perspective, private company and corporations. So 3 major opportunities in digital assets, as we call it. Usually, the classic one that everyone knows is cryptocurrencies. Okay, so think Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the different assets that will be there. DeFi, everything that is mentioned is really like the most covered topic. Second topic that starts to gain awareness is tokenized assets. It relates to everything that belongs to the digitization of the private markets. Okay, so think equity, debt, real estate, art, all those items. Okay. Last but not least, digital currencies. Okay, so there is, everyone has heard about CDBCs, so central bank digital currencies, as well as stable coins. For instance, like USDC, USDT, Tether, a bit controversial. So what we do is that we allow clients to manage any digital assets. So they are able, with our platform, to capture those 3 opportunities I just mentioned: crypto, tokenized assets, and digital currencies. What's very specific about us is that we have built an end-to-end digital asset infrastructure. Okay, so what does that mean? We cover the full life cycle of a token, from the tokenization, so the issuance of a token on the blockchain. Then this token will land into a custody solution. So Taurus Protect is what you call the heart of the nuclear engine. Okay, so this is actually the way the private keys will be stored and protected. Then you have Taurus Explorer. This one is an invisible kind of product. So usually to do a transfer on the blockchain, you need to connect to a blockchain network, to the Ethereum network, to the Bitcoin network. So Explorer will provide blockchain connectivity solution. So we need usually sometimes to run some nodes. We operate them by ourselves. You might need, well. Then, last but not least, we have also an exchange, a regulated exchange, which is TDX, a marketplace to trade tokenized securities. Okay, I will come back to it later, and cryptocurrencies. We are the leader in Europe in the space. We are in production with a full spectrum of financial institutions. Okay, so think systemic banks, investment bank, retail digital banks, private banks. We have partnership with the largest core banking system, which is Temenos. And also we work regularly with different blockchain foundations, like as we have really a vision to support an open architecture for our clients. Our infrastructure is battle-tested and regulated. So what does it mean? First of all, the previous client I showed you are not usually POC, they are really in production. Okay, so it's not something that will be live in a few years from now. The advantage of Switzerland is that it's a very advanced market when it comes to penetration rate of banks using or offering digital assets for their clients. And we have more than 60% market share in this space. So we are first FINMA regulated. So Taurus is a securities firm. So what does it mean in simple terms is that you have the banking license. Just below, you have the securities firm license. Okay. So we can do custody, actually, of securities. That would be one. Two, second important point is that we are part of what you call, what is an association, CMTA, so the Capital Market and Technology Association, which is a pluridisciplinary group. So you will have banks, auditing firms, tech providers, law firms, okay, designing the standard, okay, for the country, and even for, it's really designing the standard at a country level. So you had the digital asset custody standard, okay? And for instance, we have also issued what you call an official template to tokenize smart contract, to tokenize the shares of the Swiss corporations, okay? Which is a CMTAT. So this is usually, it's a critical element actually to drive this adoption of digital currencies and digital assets. About Taurus, so we are 50. Plus, we are really a tech firm, okay? And basically, what's critical for us is to really to ensure a full technology stack mastery. Okay, so our engineers will ensure that we cover every single aspect. So from security, cryptography, hardware, software, DevOps, and distributed systems, everything will be made in-house. Use case. So you have 3 different use cases that you will have. So as mentioned, you have bank and financial institutions, you have SMEs, and you have large brands. All of those 3, we look into different aspects, and we focus on different items regarding digital assets. Banks. So on banks, I'm going to cover or focus usually on, you have the 3 opportunities I mentioned in the beginning. So usually the classic one that we saw a lot, where we saw a lot of demand from 2017 until today, despite the bear market, is a custody of cryptocurrencies. Okay, so it means the storage. So I'm a bank. Okay, I want to offer my client the possibility to buy Bitcoin or Ethereum. I need to use a technology provider who will help me to do so to ensure we protect the private keys. Okay, of all the different wallets and blockchain addresses, so to make sure that the coins are not stolen. You can think also of staking. So staking is the ability to generate yield on passive holding by holding a specific amount of coin. Okay. That's first opportunity. The second opportunity is tokenized assets. Okay, so here I can give you a quick example. We integrated, for instance, our technology, our platform with Credit Suisse, which is a systemic bank. And the full intent was to tokenize the shares of Alaya, which was a startup, actually a park that helps people, where people actually can do surf next to the mountain. So it creates artificial wave. Okay. So the full intent was to tokenize the shares in view of a private placement. Okay, on TDX, which is our marketplace. And what was interesting is that Credit Suisse didn't want to purchase cryptocurrencies. They don't want to book crypto on their balance sheet for compliance reasons, to make it simple. So we offer them the possibility actually to deploy a smart contract and to issue a token without purchasing Ethereum, for instance. So we developed like a gas station where actually we were purchasing the Ethereum on behalf of Credit Suisse. And then, like an electricity bill at the end of the month, we were pushing, we were sending, okay, this is the bill you have to pay for the smart contract deployment, and we send the bill to the Credit Suisse. Well, simple analogy. Digital currencies, so we are working some pilots also with central banks, and this is something we believe where we'll see more and more demand in the upcoming years. SMEs. So it's kind of a new item because it's very popular today. It's become more and more popular in Switzerland. It has not yet arrived in the EU. 2 main reasons for that. Okay. First one is really the regulatory framework. So there are 2 catalysts. Number one is the distributed ledger technology law, which recognizes ledger-based securities. Okay. So basically, a token is no longer, the token is a share itself, okay, on the blockchain. And the second one is also ensuring that you have a regulated marketplace to unlock the liquidity, because it's nice to tokenize, but at some point you want to buy and sell the token, okay? And you need regulation and a proper framework to do that. So basically, Tokenization will unlock and enable simpler equity management. Okay, so think of a digital cap table where you manage your shareholder registry in real time. You can create simple participation plan in few clicks to incentivize your employee. And liquidity solutions, you will have, you can think of the trading to buy and sell the token and the fundraising. I continue. Last but not least, on the large brands. Okay, so here it will be everything that relates to Web3 and NFTs. Okay, so you can think 3 pillars that will mirror actually the life cycle of an NFT in the same way. You have the tokenization where you mint the NFT. So usually it can be applicable to physical products where you attach an NFT to it, for instance, in the watch industry, in the luxury industry, which is becoming more and more popular. Then the token is to lend it to a custody wallet, which is controlled by the brand. And then ultimately you can also imagine marketplace to trade NFT. And the NFT will be a simple certificate of authenticity, of ownership. To make sure I finish on time, sorry, 6 reasons why we, the most demanding interest story, so what's different about us? We build and we master the full technology stack, as I mentioned. We cover the full value chain. Okay, so instead of having one startup doing tokenization, one startup doing custody, another one doing blockchain connectivity and even the exchange, we really integrated everything in a modular platform, which will simplify the life of our clients. Okay. We give choice, very important for all our clients. We are really willingness and desire to be blockchain agnostic, so to support an open architecture model, and we don't want to have closed doors and to limit really from a technological perspective the possibility enabled by the blockchain technology. And also what I didn't mention, but we are tech firms, but also we provide financial and regulation also perspective when we support our clients. Voilà. So I stop here. Sorry for the 2 minutes overdue.
Thank you very much. My question was about the key factors of difference between your competitors, but you said before. And my question is about regulation. Yes, you said that you are compliant with the regulation, but even if you know that we have a different approach worldwide. And so what your opinion about the regulators and what you would ask to regulators to believe that your work is better, is more controlled, is more checked, even if there are not barriers for the development of this market. So if you have the opportunity to discuss with the policymaker, what do you want to ask them?
So we already kind of have those opportunities to discuss, and we already actually discuss with those policymakers in different regions. Okay, so what is the advantage we have and the luck we had was to be in Switzerland, okay, which is a very forward-looking market when it comes to regulation. And usually you can tell them there are 2 different entry points. And it's not only about crypto. You can also start with tokenized assets. And the regulatory framework, so on crypto, will be to say, is this crypto a securities or not? That would be one. And on tokenized assets, the catalyst is simply to have the ability for, instead of in the EU and the MiCA law infrastructure, what's important is the ability, let's say, to recognize ledger-based securities, so securities that are stored on the blockchain without the need of having a CSD, so Central Security Depository, which I'll go into much into details. So this fact of recognizing ledger-based securities is a simple catalyst for the adoption and for the full adoption, because once we do that, you can actually digitize the assets on the blockchain in a compliant way. And so Middle East is about to release its framework. EU is about also to release in March-April this framework. Singapore, Switzerland, Luxembourg are already kind of very forward-looking. So we see the world kind of really embracing, and again, you have simple frameworks, and what's interesting is that also, so you have the regulatory framework, but also the technical framework and standardization. So you need also standard, like the CMTA smart contract standard to tokenize the shares of a corporation. You need them to be, there's this in Switzerland, but after every single market will say, okay, this is my law. So we need a provider that is able to adapt, to add little twist on the smart contract function, and this is also what we will be doing in the way.
And what do you think about the central bank digital currency? The opportunity for you is to close the process, because with cash on chain that is more similar for institution can close and create new opportunities, or yes, it's a feature that you don't know if it will see, and maybe it will create not so very important new opportunities. What do you think about the central bank digital currency?
So the opportunity for a bank, it will depend really from a bank perspective and the design of the central bank digital currency by itself. Okay, so in China you have a two-tier, like I'm not going to go into detail, but you have a two-tier systems. Ultimately, what's important is that you want a bank to be able, for instance, to convert fiat into, so you have the fiat world, okay, you lock your fiat, and then you issue the corresponding amount of digital token, okay, on the blockchain. This is actually minting tokens. And what's important is that the bank needs to do this process if they're autonomous, if they have the ability to do it by themselves. So they need to mint into what you call an HSM, which is a hardware security module, to ensure full security in the process, because this is the way that's going to happen. So that would be one, but again, to your question, then you need to obviously to custody the currency and the money itself. But what's critical to really understand is the design and the operational model of the central bank digital currencies. Ideally, they are similar everywhere, but we would expect still that everyone is independent. So you might have still different items, and that's why it's so exciting, because you see it's moving a bit. Well, it's very dynamic. Let's say that way.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Victor. So right now we have another point of view. I say thank you to Gianluigi Guida from Binance Italy. Okay. So Gianluigi, the stage is yours, and you have 10 minutes.
Thank you. Should I press something?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'm Gianluigi Guida from Binance Italy. Let's start with some numbers. 120 million Binance registered users. 80 billion average daily trading volumes in dollars, of course. This makes us the world #1 crypto exchange. Plus the 2.4 billions, I'm sorry, thank you very much. I was talking about myself. More than 2.4 billion transactions already made on the BNB chain. We serve more than 180 countries, and more than 27 payments have been already made with the Binance cards, and continuing, of course. I would like to address 3 simple questions. What do we do? How do we do it, and why do we do it? What do? We provide infrastructure, as well as products and services that allow people to enter into the blockchain universe and to navigate it in order to take advantage of these new powerful technologies. This is a graphical visualization of the Binance ecosystem. You may see in the center there's the core with all the products. Then on the right side we see the decentralization, how we work with decentralization on and how we support decentralization. BNB chain, Trust Wallet, the BUSD, which is a stable coin. Then we see on the right bottom investment incubation side, how we support the fintech ecosystem. Then we see education, research, social good, how we help to spread the knowledge on Web3. And then other points, such as the fiat, supported fiat currencies on the right side, and partner fiat to crypto. Second question, how do we do it? Well, we facilitate the adoption of blockchain technologies and incentivize the development of the ecosystem. How we do this? Mainly through two ways. The direct offering of crypto products and services, and those are the ones that you may find on the platform. For example, the exchange, the famous exchange, but we also offer services for traders. We offer the crypto service, of course, the custody service, where users can hold their crypto. We issue fund tokens, the Lazio fund token, the Porto fund token, maybe you've already heard about this. We have the peer-to-peer platform, Binance Pay, which allows to pay in crypto, Binance Card, already mentioned, staking products, NFT marketplace, and so on. But we also indirectly contribute to the development of the entire ecosystem. And how we do this? Well, for example, through Binance Labs, which is the venture arm of Binance, which invests in startups, in the ecosystem, in the fintech ecosystem. Of course, we are talking about web3 ecosystem. That's where we are mainly focused. And we already have in place some partnerships with famous accelerators in France, for example, Station F. Binance Charity is another arm. We support people directly. We donate money to people all around the world. Binance Academy, which is focused on spreading the knowledge on Web 3.0. And we have in place already many partnerships with several universities from the US, Italy, France, Europe, Asia, all around the world. Through the BNB chain, which is the blockchain that was launched by Binance, but now it's a public open blockchain, is one of the most active, actually. For example, also through Trust Wallet, which is an app you can use on your cell phone to manage your crypto. Third question, why do we do this? Well, our vision is to increase the financial inclusion and the freedom of money globally. We believe that by spreading this freedom, we can improve lives all around the world. And we also strongly believe that mass adoption will eventually happen. It's just a matter of time. And we want to help the transition from the traditional system to this new system, which is enhancement of the traditional system. We don't want, of course, to delete the past. That's impossible. We just want to improve the system through the provision of infrastructures, products, and services. Okay, this said, okay, thanks. I would like to give you some food for thoughts. We are, at the moment, we are experiencing some very interesting growth in user acquisition all around the world. And please allow me some patriotism, but Italy at the moment in Europe is the #1 for user acquisitions. And if we consider that we are in a so-called bear market, so we cannot take advantage of the wave of the positive cascade effects, which generally are connected to the bull market, well, this means that the world is spreading all around. But of course, registration is not everything. We want users to stay and to use the technology. And how we do this? Well, it's very simple. We build trust. How we build trust? Well, we put in place safeguards and security measures, for which Binance, by the way, is famous all around the world. We protect the accounts. We protect the users. But we also work together with regulators and governments in order to, well, for two main reasons. The first one is to help them to achieve an effective supervision, which in turn will not and should not limit the development of the technology and the use of the technology. That's why it should be an effective supervision. But we also help them to define the perimeters and measures that encourage the development of these measures. It means we help them to draft rules and regulations. And why we do this, as I said, we want to protect our users, not only our users actually, we want to protect the entire ecosystem. And we want to avoid the crimes are committed through blockchain, through the blockchain. And that's why also we work a lot with law enforcement all around the world. In just 1 year, we have responded to more than 27,000 law enforcement requests in order to investigate on crimes. And we want that criminals that use blockchain to commit crime are given to the justice. And these goals are very similar to those that not every, but most of the authorities and governments all around the world would like to reach. So only building trust, we can achieve the mass adoption. Why? Because if there's trust, more people will use blockchain technologies. If more people use blockchain technologies, we will achieve the mass adoption. Even the most anti-governmental or anti-establishment citizen, at the end of the day, when it comes to put money, a lot of money in a product or in a company, in an entity, probably, we did do exceptions, probably he/she will choose a regulated or supervised entity. Why? Because there's trust around it. So I see Stephanie is here. Welcome. I will leave to Stephanie to talk a little bit more about our strategy with the regulators and governments. Thank you.
Thank you, Gianluigi. I'm Stephanie. I'm the head of legal of Binance France in France. And before joining Binance, I was Deputy General Counsel at the French Markets Authority. So what the crypto registration has changed for Binance in France, Italy, and Spain. So basically, Binance received in France a virtual asset service provider registration. In France, we received it in the beginning of May, and then we received it in Italy and Spain. This is the most, the common denominator of regulation about crypto in Europe. It's the VASP registration as provided in the FATF guidelines. And this means that Binance, like other VASPs, is submitted to all the anti-money laundering framework that applies to financial institutions. So it's the same regulatory framework that applies to crypto asset service providers as to banks, investment funds, investment firms, financial institutions, everybody. Alors, what does it change? Concretely, it means that Binance is submitted as any other VASP to all the AML framework. It means that we have measures to identify our users. So it's all the KYC process. Any user that is onboarded on Binance has a KYC and has all the questions that needs to be for us to be able to identify him. Then we have enhanced due diligence on some high-risk profiles. So we ask for the source of wealth, for example, for many other details if it's needed, depending on the risk profile of the user. Then we have transaction monitoring on an ongoing basis. It means that all the transactions on crypto are monitored through our internal tools. And we are then able to spot any suspicious transaction that may occur. It's the same mechanism as in a bank, except with the fact that we use in blockchain what we call a blockchain analytical tools. It's with providers like Chain Analysis or Elliptic. And these providers are able to spot wallets on the blockchain that are linked with criminal activities, with money laundering, terrorism, etc. So these third-party providers, these tools, are integrated in our transaction monitoring, and it helps us to identify some transactions that may come from suspicious wallets. So it's something that the banking system doesn't have, and we can have with the blockchain technology that is transparent. And then the end of this process is that when, through the transaction monitoring, we identify suspicious transactions, we are submitting them to the French Financial Intelligence Unit, the French FIU, for France, the Italian FIU for Italy, the Spanish FIU for Spain, like a traditional financial institution. So we are able now to submit these STRs, suspicious transaction reports, anytime that we have doubts about one transaction. This then enables all the law enforcement agencies to carry on their investigations with their tools that are obviously more broad than ours, and to investigate on the criminal networks, etc. What the registration has changed, very pragmatically, is that it has enabled Binance to have a declarant number to the FIU. Before the registration, it was not possible to submit the STRs, the suspicious transactions, because we didn't have this declarant number. So even if Binance had already all the transaction monitoring, all the tools, legally, it was not possible to submit this suspicious transaction. So now it is possible, and now we have built relationships, a network of relationships with all public authorities, including the FIU. It means that on an even daily basis, we communicate with them, we submit our STRs, and we answer also to their requests. As John Gildry told us, we have a lot of requests, and we help them to investigate on their criminal cases. So now this is the basis of our regulated activity in France and other countries. The next step now for us is to be prepared to MiCA regulation. So it is the next level of regulation, a European regulation, that will bring more protection for investors. So it's a good thing. There will be a lot more obligations on VASP than now. Now it's only AML. Tomorrow with MiCA it will be a lot more. This is a significant step to pass. That's why Binance wants to be prepared and to anticipate the entry into application of MiCA. It's something that we can do in France especially, because especially in France there is an optional regulation, which is the second step of the regulation. First step is AML. Second step is like a VASP authorization, very close to the MiCA one. So it's possible with this optional regulation to be prepared to the step of MiCA. So we are currently working on this to be able to implement before it enters into application, to be compliant with all the European regulation that will come into force.
Thank you, Gianluigi. Thank you, Stephanie. I have a question regarding the BNB chain. I think that's one of the most defining feature offered by Binance. And I have a couple of questions. The first one is, how do you see the future of this technical tool? I mean, it for certainly allowed many users to play with blockchain services with lower fees than what happened on other major, let me say, chains such as Ethereum. But now we're seeing these chains trying to solve the problem of the high fees. We recently witnessed the merge. Then there's an ambitious roadmap ahead. How do you see the future of BNB chain? Will it kind of become a roll-up of major chains? Will it maintain its distinctive character, or what?
Okay. That's a very good question. So, as mentioned, BNB chain was launched by Binance, but it's a blockchain. It's a public blockchain. It's a world-leading blockchain. So, we definitely hope that more users will use this blockchain. we'll do our best in order to allow more users users, let's say also companies, to adopt this blockchain into their system, into their services. So if the question is, it will become private, the answer is obviously no. So
I didn't think of that.
Okay, good. So we will see an evolution, of course, of several blockchains. We started with the Bitcoin blockchain, which obviously is not the most useful for transaction, for fast transaction. Then we saw an evolution with the second layers, and then, of course, Ethereum, the BNB chain. All this evolution will help at the end to achieve the mass adoption, and we will not even see we don't even have to know how they work. We will just use them, as it happens today with the internet. No, I don't know how many people knows about the internet protocol, but we use it. And eventually this will happen also with the blockchain, hopefully with the BNB chain, which, by the way, again, it is not proprietary of Binance, of course.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Now we open the question and answering time from the public. So if you have any question, you can stand up your hands. I ask, if there is a microphone, or I ask to go to the, over there, if you push the red button. The red one.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation of everyone. I actually have 3 questions, but I will start with Victor. So I'm a corporate and tax lawyer that specializes in crypto. So I was really interested in your presentation because you said that your solutions handle end-to-end all assets. So my question is, how do you handle an asset that is backed by real estate? Do you handle it with the notaries, the land registry?
It's a very good question because the tokenized asset industry is radically different versus the crypto industry as we talk about securities. In the case of real estate, usually we deal with bonds because they raise debt. So you issue actually the token. Okay, so actually it will be a SPV that purchases a real estate asset. You tokenize the share of the SPV, okay, or a bond. And then what's also interesting is the critical item is probably the asset servicing. Okay, so basically for a share you have dividend, for a bond you have coupon payment. So usually our technology can actually automatize and process the corporate actions, like we will be calling them. The only piece of the puzzle missing today to do that, to properly automatize it, would be a regulated stablecoin. So regulated CBDCs, because actually you don't want to you tokenize an asset, I don't know, in Netherlands. When you proceed with a coupon payment, you don't want to be paid, you want to be paid actually in euro, something liquid regulated, and not in a USDC or USDT. So that would be, for instance, one layer of regulation coming in, missing. But otherwise, it's really ensuring proper asset servicing of the token. So after, you need also extra smart contract function. So for instance, you can, maybe the token will land into a US wallet and you don't, the US owner is not supposed to own to get it. So you have functions which will force the transfer so that you make sure that the issuer, you as a company, has a full control on basically your shareholder registry or bondholder registry, yes.
Thank you so much. And my second question to Binance, how do you handle politically exposed persons at the moment?
Can you say it again? A little bit.
How do you handle PEPs, politically exposed persons?
But like any other bank, we have enhanced due diligence for these persons, and there is a validation by the management for each person to be onboarded.
Thank you. Sorry, and my last question is to Jeremy. Unfortunately, I was facing bots in LinkedIn as well, which was a really big shock for me. Do you think that your solution can actively eradicate bots in all social media, or it's too ambitious to think about something like that?
That's the that's the vision. That would be great. No, it does not today. I think that this solution of being able to prove that you claim who you say you are, by design, eradicates bots. They are really useful bots, like bots that we don't like are bots that pretend to be, someone that is famous and sending you free stuff, and actually it's a virus or whatever. So that if that system or another, I think that a portable identity that is user-owned and that kind of respects the privacy of the users, that allows them to share just the link to the proof, but not the actual data, is great. And that's the vision.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Denis Alexandre. I have a question for Binance. In 2019, during this forum, this blockchain OECD forum, there was a guy called Wei Zhu. I don't know if he's still working for Binance, but his speech was, from a compliance point of view, I would say, sorry for my English, but completely crazy. Now, Binance has hired a lot of previous regulators like yourself, but how do you change the risk culture? In banks, it took a long time, even if they improve a lot in terms of compliance, to change the risk culture. How do you, can you describe a few plans that you put in place to change or not to change this culture of compliance, risk, and accountability?
Yes, it's a good question, actually, because as you mentioned, banks are regulated. They are 200 years old, so it's a different culture, and they are fully regulated. So all of us come from the tech environment, so the regulation is very new to all this ecosystem. And most of the regulations are also very recent. For example, in France, the VASP registration is mandatory since the end of 2019, so December 2019. So it's really a new environment, and what we are doing is that we are basically applying the regulation step by step. During the application process for the registration, the instruction by the regulator, it takes several months. So during all these months, there are constant discussions with the regulators on all the AML framework, the KYC, transaction monitoring, etc. So it's a first step to get used to have a first contact with the expectancies of the regulators. And then on a day-to-day basis, we apply all the requirements that are needed. For example, we have built a weekly compliance meeting in the French regulated entity since we got the registration with the top management and the compliance team, investigations, transaction monitoring, etc. And every week we go through all the topics, relevant topics, to make decisions, to have a monitoring of all the STRs that are currently submitted, etc. So this is an example, very pragmatic, of this new culture of regulation that now applies to all the VASPs.
Yeah, I may add something on this. So both the compliance team and the legal team in Binance have experienced a very fast growth in terms of hirings. So hundreds of professionals have joined Binance in a couple of years, especially in the last year, actually. So we take care a lot about this, the compliance with these rules, which, by the way, they are very similar to those which the banks are subject to. Also in Italy, we are registered there, and we need to provide reports every 3 months. Of course, I mean, the rules are new, as Stefan said, and probably they will evolve. At the moment, these are the rules, and we want to comply with them, and we do our best to comply with them. Thanks.
Hello. Hi. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. My name is Giovanni Paolo Gulu, and I've got a question for Binance as well. I would like to focus on what your question. So I would like to focus on your SIRA, your systematic integrity risk analysis that you have made. So you have 2 registrations, 2 licenses, Bahrain and Dubai, and in Spain you use a banking license of a Spanish bank. That's what I understand. And you have got a lot of you are applicant in a bunch of countries. But everyone knows that you are globally present. So I would like to understand, how do you compose your SIRA, your systematic integrity risk analysis? Do you do it for France only for the French registration and Italy only for the, do you only take account the Italian specific risks for your Italian registration, or do you also take some risks that you have by having an office in Russia, or being present in the Netherlands, or how do you do that? I would like to understand how you compose and develop your SIRA in order to tackle all the risks that occur on your platform.
Yes, but obviously we have 2 levels of risk analysis. The local level, and especially in the regulated entities, it is a requirement from the regulators, and it is reviewed by the regulators. So we have a risk analysis, AML risk analysis, mandatory, and also a business risk analysis at the local level. And we also have a risk analysis at the global level for all the activities, all the BUs. It's not the same, because it's not the same entities, but basically we have a risk analysis at the 2 levels.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for your presentations. My name is Izzat Begum Rajan, and I'm an international tax attorney. I happen to write a PhD thesis on the taxation of crypto assets, focusing on utility token. But some of my research is also on how you, Taurus Group, and Unstoppable Domains are becoming, or will have to become somehow, tax compliant as well, above and beyond the companies like Binance who are already looking into that and manning up, staffing up your tax team, I understand, globally. So my question is, how far in time are you looking at that, if not already, and how do you intend to also embed that in your overall compliance framework? Thank you.
The fact that we are already kind of considered as a firm, we have a securities firm license from the FINMA, makes us, everything we do, let's say from day one, from the creation, is to serve kind of, to serve as a core client, the banks. Okay. So to answer your question, from a tax perspective, we are a technology provider, so it's really on our clients, banks, that should be looking at more the details on if a user basically purchased a utility token or security token. The burden, let's call it that way, will be on the bank. Okay. Now we have also a marketplace. Okay. And in this way, also, we have an internal compliance department where obviously we will ensure proper KYC, AML implementation policy. So we work also with the provider, elliptic, chain analysis, coin firms, core chain, the usual suspect in EU. But again, the key point is everything we do is in full compliance with the Swiss law and we are audited like more than several times a year from every single aspect. So let's say to your question, we are in very good hands. Let's call it that way.
This is obviously not my specialty, so I will get back to you with better answers. But what I can say is that this is an American company and that we provide NFTs, which are the domains, which are the smart contracts that users own. This is the activity. We provide this technology to users, and then they own it. If they resell them because they happen to have like some extra value, like it will be on the users to kind of respect the tax of their country. If you buy the domain in the US, you pay the taxes of your state taxes, etc. If you buy it out of the US, that's the same thing. Like as a company, we declare our revenue to the IRS in the United States because we are an America-based company.
Yeah, just to add to the tax question, as we all know, there's no international taxation about crypto at the moment. So what you do is that you look at what's the local legislation that's applicable to similar assets, and then if there is guidance on crypto, you apply that guidance as much as possible. So at the moment, you just use old local legislation.
Hello, my name is Igal Nevoa from INX. INX is the first company who got approved by the SEC to raise capital on security token. Today we have trading platform of security token and crypto exchange licensed in the United States, open for all 50 states for retail investors. I want to ask Giacomo and Valeria of the research. We're talking about startups and the way that startups raise capital in the blockchain field. It was ICO, and now they are shifting to other ways. Have you seen understanding of startups that they need to go to more regulated phase, go to angels, VCs, or maybe even digital securities, because we know that now in the United States, the walls of regulation are closing, and the possibility to raise capital with crypto is really shrinking, and I think eventually it's going to be in the European field and other Western countries. So if you see digital securities as a potential for that startups really understand that, and as a Towers Group also give the opportunity for companies to raise capital in that way, maybe it's the best way for a startup to really raise capital with crypto and without all the legal obligation that probably the people that started made ICOs or get capital from less authorized authorities will be better. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Yeah, the how startup raise money is a huge topic. We should cover it on a separate event. But we did this research. Probably is the 5th year that we do this research. And in 2017, 2018, we saw a lot of ICOs. Like nowadays, the number that we showed, like 30 billions, are coming from VCs. So traditional institutional investor, angels, and so on. We saw less ICOs. We see something that is not included in our analysis, but everything is related to tokenomics, airdrops, so the creation of new tokens that then are distributed to the community. We didn't see the actual selling of digital assets that represent the property from a legal perspective of a startup. But yeah, why not in the future? This could be another way to raise money also for startups that are already providing innovative solutions that you already probably know the technology. So, but yeah, the field of how to raise money for this in this environment is really interesting and is developing in new ways that also regarding tokenomics are really then connected to how they involve the community, not only how they raise money, but how then they use the token inside their business model. So it's a very complex topic, but yeah.
To to build a bit on what Giacomo was saying, we did more than dozens, like tokenization and even kind of, let's call it STO to simplify. To do it in full compliance with the Swiss law, you have few items to look at. First one will be like from documentation perspective, you need like 3 documents, tokenization rules and agreement, which will summarize the law of the implication of the tokenization. 2 will be the prospectus, which is the most important document for fundraising. It's like not an official, but a mini prospectus for fundraising below 8 million. And third one will be a shareholder subscription agreement. So just to make sure that someone signs and becomes actually a shareholder of the company. The important item is really to ensure that to put the country of residence of the shareholder, because this is actually the critical item. Swiss resident, there is no issue, this is in the law. If ever you want to do a Swiss company raising money with French investors, in this case, they would require a legal opinion, a local legal opinion. So each time you add a new country, you need a new local legal opinion to ensure full compliance on this fundraising aspect.
If I can add another question for Binance, do you see, I seen you are going to Canada to be a security trading license. Is this something that you think that you are going to do in other states to focus on legal security? Because it's a shift of what Binance now offering, but maybe it's the future.
Yeah, that's a good question. So we don't have our colleague from Canada that could say more about this, but for sure, where there are rules, we need to comply with them. So if some country, for example, if a country issues a regulation on how to offer security tokens, for example, and we need to be there and to offer our products to the customers there, well, we need to comply with that law. So we will see how this will evolve, how many countries will issue this kind of rules. In that case, of course, we will see where it's good for us to be.
I noted that you are registered with various countries in the European Union, and this is, I guess, despite the fact that MiCA will harmonize some of those obligations. And so I'm just wondering why you elected to do that. Is it something along the lines of you want to be registered in any country where you have customers and where that country has an applicable regime?
Yes, currently there is no passport. Without MiCA, there is no passport in the European Union, so we need to be registered in each member state if we want to do marketing globally. So we have identified a certain number of member states in which we apply for registrations, but with MiCA, it will be possible to passport from only one member state. So if we have the MiCA license in one member state, we will be allowed to sell our products in all the European Union.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for all the questions. There is a very fast question from a remote audience. They ask to Binance the custody, the cryptocurrency promoted in the past, the inclusion, financial inclusion. There is a kind of proof of this connection, that a real connection of impact and benefit of financial inclusion, cryptocurrency create financial inclusion or not? Do you have evidence of that?
Evidence. Well, we see that in many underdeveloped countries, the crypto adoption is growing fast. Like in Nigeria. Nigeria, for example, it's exploding just. If we think that in many countries, people don't have actually access physically to banks or institutions like that, but if they have access to a cell phone, and by the way, in these countries, they have access to cell phones, they can manage their money, they can do transactions only by using this cell phone, only by having an account with Binance or whatever other crypto service provider there are. So there are evidences in the sense that we see how much this adoption is growing. And this is tangible, by the way, because I can send money easily to somebody in any country, and the only requirement is this one, and having the app there. Then they can also use the crypto that they receive for paying. If crypto are accepted as main ways of payments, they can also pay. So this means that in theory, they don't need to go physically to a bank to withdraw cash. And that's, it's slowly, this is just the beginning, but this is happening.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. I think that was very interesting to know your point of view about this topic, and I hope that we will have other moments that we can create a networking from institution, university, and companies overall. Thank you very much. We will see at 2 o'clock in room number 7. Thank you. Bye.